Even in the dark when you can't see, right when it feels like you're falling, lean on me. Transformation, it takes patience. Oh, I see it starting now. There's beauty in that transformation. The past is fading. Oh, I know it will be hard, but I'll be right here waiting.
Welcome, everybody. Final day of Transform. We are here. How are we all doing? How is everybody? Let me know. How are you? Great to see your faces. So beautiful. Well, here we are. Can you believe it? Last day. Welcome, Matt. Looking nice and sharp here.
Hello and welcome, everybody. Good morning. Hope you're all enjoying this week. I'm excited for today, Nat.
Oh, me too. It feels like it's been such a beautiful unfoldment. You know, I've had messages from so many of you sharing how you've been feeling, the shifts you've been making. This is the magic, right? This is the magic. And it's been 4 days, or not even 3 days, right? We're starting day 4 now. So I love it. I love it. What's been your, what out of all the things we've shared, Matt, so far, I know there's been a lot. What would you say has been maybe one of the most important or something someone can really hold on to to help their transformation?
Well, like you said, I think they're all important. I think when it comes to manifesting what we want, it's not like one thing that you need. Mm-hmm. And I know we quite often say things like, oh, self-image or identity is everything, or attitude is everything. But the truth is, what I've found is that they're just pieces of a puzzle. And there are so many pieces that make up that puzzle. And so what we want to do is we want to really, I think when it comes to events like this, is take a couple of ideas and implement them. You want to implement them. And it's through the application of these principles that they start to become a part of you. Right. And then you realize that you need something else. You need to work on something else. But to just nail one thing, or to just highlight one thing from the last 3 days, I think it's pretty difficult. But I think decision, nothing changes without a decision. So if you really want to create change in life, that's the starting point, is you make that decision for yourself.
Yeah.
And then other things follow.
Totally. And yesterday we spoke about decision, which makes me, or brings me to ask each and every one of you, how did you go? Did you become aware of a decision that you've been putting off, or a decision that is irrevocable? You know, the thing with decision making is that it's our thing. It's no one else's thing. You don't ask someone else, even though we may feel we should or need to, or it's only when we don't have enough confidence in ourselves that we feel we need to get approval from somebody else. But ultimately, decisions are yours to make and yours to walk through, yours to own, yours to stand in. The more confident you are, the easier you're going to find it to make decisions. Okay. There's a golden thread with successful people, and they make decisions quickly and they stick with them. Okay. I love something that I listened to. Someone said, when you make a decision, right, and you do the thing, and then maybe you make another decision, you change your mind, but you acted on that first decision, that's okay. But it's only when you make a decision and then you second guess yourself and then you change your mind. And then you make a decision, then you second guess yourself and you change your mind. That's called doubt. And really, a decision is when you've moved on that frequency. And you cannot stay on that frequency if you jump off that frequency. And what happens when you formed a habit of doing that, what you're telling your subconscious is, I don't believe in myself. I don't believe I can do this. I don't believe I deserve this, because I'm in and out, hesitation. Hesitation is the opposite of confidence. And hesitation will either be building from compounded effect of indecision. So one of the ways that you can really start to build your decision making and your confidence in yourself is to follow through on your word. And you act on those things that you love. For example, if you're at a restaurant, you're looking at the menu, the question to ask yourself is, what would I love right now? Not what I had last time, because maybe you're a different person last time. You felt like something different last time. But what would I love right now? What would I love? You know, Bob always used to say, what do I want? Well, I prefer what do I love, because I'm very connected to my emotions. So when I think of what I love, all of a sudden I'm very clear. For some of you, maybe it is, what do I want? That's okay. But if anything's possible for you, what would you love? If you knew it was impossible for you to fail, what would you love? If you knew that your success was guaranteed, what would you love? And this takes me back to a moment in time where I had been manifesting my soulmate. You know, the way I was manifesting my soulmate was visualizing myself being treated in a magical way, being romanced and affection and loved and appreciated, and walking along the beach and everything that I have today, right? This is how Matt treats me. But once upon a time, I didn't have that, nor was that a part of my paradigm, because I didn't grow up with that environment. I was creating something beyond what had been a program. And therefore, I used my imagination. Now, the interesting thing about this, I'll tell you a lesson, was I was putting a face of someone who was an older boyfriend, and I was limiting the how, because I was trying to control who that was. And it was only when I let go of trying to control how it happened that I opened up the space for the universe to dazzle me. And so I then made a decision to go overseas. And I was going on my own. And I was so excited and scared at the same time. And sometimes when we're making these life-changing decisions, that's what happens, right? We're excited, but we're nervous because we're going to a place we've never been. I was claiming more independence. I was backing myself. I was trusting myself that I was going to go to this country and be fine for 10 weeks on my own without anybody, speaking Spanish on my own. I was going to figure it out, you see. And then here I meet Matt. Now, here's the magic of it, right? Here's the synchronicity for those of you who love synchronicities, right? The day I met Matt was the day that I paid for my ticket to fly overseas. I put the deposit down. I financially transacted that same night. So when I went out that night, I felt I was on a different vibration. I was on the vibration of joy, of freedom, pretty much freedom. And that's what I felt. So I then was energetically open. I was open to receiving. Now, I understand this now because I've studied the laws of the universe and success and all these things. But at the time, I can look back now and see what I did. And that's what I'm trying to share with you, this process. So I let in. Now, here's what happened. Here I am. I've attracted someone that energetically feels good. Like I felt good in his energy. It felt right. But my head was telling me something else. My head was saying, no, you're going overseas. You don't need to commit to anything. No, what you said you weren't going to get married. You don't want a partner. No, right? But here I went, and I just went with that. I decided I was going overseas. I met Matt, and then bang, here I was 6 months later about to leave overseas. But I had fallen in love with Matt by then in 6 months. So my head was telling me no, but my heart was saying this feels right. But I was scared of getting hurt, of going, like there was things I had to break through. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something that is probably one of the most powerful things I've shared out of all the 4 days. Is that if we do not choose our heart and lead and decide from our heart, and instead we choose our head, we could miss out on all our dreams, on the most magical things that are destined and divine for you. And every time we choose our head and we rationalize and reason, and because we're afraid, we are missing out on aligning and receiving the riches that were meant for us. Now, I know the process is uncomfortable. Okay. And depending on that level of growth, it can be an equal amount of discomfort. This is where I will give you something that will make decision-making so much easier for you. If you knew that this was going to be magical, what would you love? What feels right? When you go to your heart and you go to your emotions, you're out of your head. The head's going to tell you, I can't afford this. I've already done this. I don't have time for this. What if it doesn't work? Like, that's the head. Decision-making is not an intellectual exercise. Decision-making is an emotional exercise. Now, your emotions lead you. You have to then act on it. And I remember there was a moment, and I think Matt would remember this too. He doesn't know what I'm talking about, by the way. But I remember this moment when we were in a car park about to go watch a movie, and I felt Matt was going through the same thing. Right? And I felt his fears coming up in committing to a relationship because he had never had a partner before, a girlfriend. So here we were. I manifested something I'd been wanting for years, love, to be appreciated, right? I had to do the inner work, right? Love myself more to match, right? I had to do that. And then here he was going through his own crossroad. And I know that for us to be where we are today and have what we have, he had to go through that same fears, doubts, discomforts. Do you remember that, Matt?
I do.
And this is whether you're betting on yourself for a business, this is a relationship that it might be the most magical thing. And there's a part that you might decide in that moment to go with your head and you lose what you've wanted. In that moment, can you talk through someone who can relate it to themselves in you choosing faith over fear, or love over fear?
For that example?
Yeah, or any example, because the process is the same.
Yeah. Well, I truly believe that everyone has faith in something or someone, right? And there's even faith in fear. And what I mean by that, you fear something because you believe it's possible for you. If someone's fearing something. And I'll give you an example, right? And I'll give you a different example to what you're sharing, okay? like public speaking was my greatest fear when I first started in this business. My greatest fear, like it was just crippling me. If I was to speak in a group environment, very, very scary for me, right? In fact, I remember being in Bob Proctor's seminar, that one in Toronto that we've been speaking about this week. And I had a question because Sandra Gallagher was walking around the room asking, you know, does anyone have any questions? And I had a question, and everything inside me wanted to put my hand up to say, yes, you know, I want to ask a question. There was like 80 people there. And I could not put my hand up to ask that question. I literally remember looking down and I could see my shirt fluttering from my heartbeat racing so much, right? It was pounding. I could feel it in like my head. That's how much it was pounding, just from the thought of raising my hand to ask a question in front of all those people, right? But the underlying fear was a fear of criticism for me in that moment, okay? And what I realized when I entertained the idea of myself speaking in a group setting, I was imagining myself freezing in front of an audience, okay? Or not knowing what to say, or sounding silly with what I'm saying, okay? And so what I was doing, I was using my imagination to go into the future. I was building an image of something that I did not want, and I was getting emotionally involved with that image or that idea. And I was bringing it into this present moment, and I was feeling that fear, right? And in that moment, when I've felt those things, I've believed that it was a possibility. So I've believed in that idea. I believed in that image, even though it was a figment of my imagination. So even an example that you're sharing, right? When, you know, you're talking about our relationship and being in that car, I remember that moment of being in that car park before we went in to go watch a movie. And yes, you're right. Like my thoughts were like, I don't know if I can take this any further, right? And it was coming from a place of fear. And so it's an incorrect use of imagination. We can use our imagination any way that we want to use it. And isn't that crazy that when it comes to making certain decisions or in certain moments of our life, that we would use it in a way that would stop us from doing the thing that we want to do, right? Because we're getting emotionally involved with an idea that is totally imaginary. And 9 times out of 10, like I want you to think of yourself for a moment here. Something that you've been afraid of in the past, or even currently, something you fear. I can guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, you're doing the same thing that I just explained. You're taking your mind into the future, you're building it, imagining something that you don't want, and that causes you to stop there in your tracks. Can you relate to that? Like there's been times when I've spoken with a person and they want to join our coaching program, okay? But they're scared of what their spouse is going to say, right? If they did it. And so I'd ask them a few questions to get a feel for their situation. And if I get a sense that their partner is generally supportive, I know that the fear that they're experiencing in that moment is merely just like a figment of their imagination, like an incorrect use of their imagination. They're imagining their spouse being upset at them for doing something. And so they're feeling scared, but of course they are, because in that moment, like if I draw a stick person again, so you can really see this. So there is a situation, now let's just put a little situation or a decision that you want to make about a situation. In that moment, in your mind, there is like a whole heap of scenarios that go out, possibilities, right? And so you're imagining a certain thing happening if you decide to do something, or if you decide not to do something. So it's going on in your imagination. You're building that, like you're getting all these ideas and you're building an image of something happening, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. And you get to choose this, like you get to build whatever image you want. Remember that, right? And in that moment, your subconscious mind, remember this, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So in that moment, your subconscious feels either fear or love. You're either going to love the idea and the image, or you're going to fear it. And it does not know the difference between reality and what's going on in the imagination. And so that then controls your vibration and then your behaviors, the actions that you take, which then produce the results, right? So we have to recognize in the moment when we're using our imagination incorrectly, or we're making something up that is not serving us when it comes to achieving our goals. And I want to make another point here about decision making. I want you to think that this is where you are right now. This is where you are with whatever it is that you're working on in your life, okay? Your health, your financial situation, your business, whatever it is, okay? Relationships. And this is where you want to go. Let's say it's point A and point B, okay? Point B is a definite possibility. That image that you're holding onto in your mind, like that is a possibility of something that is real, okay? When you, between point A and point B, there are all these decisions that you've got to make to arrive there, okay? Now, I truly believe if you are locked into this image, you can see it clearly, you're emotionally involved with it, okay? You're thinking and acting like that person you want to become. The way to get there, it doesn't matter what decision you make, you'll get there. There are so many ways to get to point B. Some ways will be faster than others though, so you can slow yourself down. But I don't think you can make a wrong decision, okay? I really don't. But if point B, if you're using your mind to imagine things that you don't want, so if you haven't got control of your mind, the decisions you make will take you to that point that you're scared of. Something that Andrew Carnegie was saying, or that he was quoted saying, was any idea that is held in the mind, that is emphasized, that is either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient form available. You want to remember that, whether it's positive or negative.
I love that. I just think that just even accepting that idea, what if every decision I made was right, was perfect?
Yeah.
Can we just really fathom that? Oh my goodness, that means that I can't get it wrong. If we can eliminate that voice that doubts, second guesses, or rationalizes with having what you want or making a decision for that next step, then you're going to feel ease, and that will actually collapse time, because just like what you said, Matt, you're not going to bounce around and focus on what you're afraid of. The only time we're going to focus on what we're afraid of is if doubt starts to creep in. But if you don't give space for the doubt to creep in because you understand it, you've accepted the belief. Remember, everything we believe is true for us. So what if you accepted the belief, every decision I make is perfect and always gets me to my dreams, my goals? Now you can let go of any doubt. See, I truly believe the more you feel that it's right for you, the more clarity you have, and the more you can act on it. But you have to not let doubt come in. There's no way that there's a possibility that I could have said to Matt, no, whatever. Or Matt could have done the same. Like, no, there's possibility. There's a version of that reality. But see, by holding an image in my mind, the decisions, although uncomfortable at times, because that meant I was going against more doubtful thoughts, right? That's why there's resistance or discomfort. You're just moving against those discomforts. But that's getting you to what you want. So can you see that by going after what you really love, depending on that gap, may feel like you're moving against the grain, but you are making massive transformation and change. And the person who's more like, I'm a very emotional person. So I'm very connected to what I feel. Like I feel feelings very intensely, whatever they are, anger, happiness, joy, love, right? So I have to keep working on, and I do keep working on, is focusing on what I want. If I have the image of what I want and my emotions are intense and I'm feeling good about it on the positive stream, then I collapse time really quickly. You can do the same. You can get really emotionally involved with what you want. It's connecting more to what your heart feels. And that's why I always say to someone, follow what your gut's telling you, your intuition, not your head. Takes me back to a moment when we were in a room in Canada and I was listening to this for the first time and I just fell in love. I fell in love with this material and I just wanted to help people with it. And I felt that it was my purpose. Everything aligned in that moment where I just knew. And I literally got off my chair and I walked to the bathroom and I thought, I'm doing this. And as soon as I was walking out of the room, I walked into Sandy Gallagher and I said, that was like the first thing I said to her. I'm like, Sandy, what do I need to do to coach? She's like, okay, go speak to this person. And I was like, okay, I'd made up my mind. In that moment, I didn't go and speak to Matt. I didn't message him and say, hey, what do you think of this? No, I knew. I knew in my heart that that's what I wanted. That's what I was meant to do. That's what felt right. A decision could be buying a top you love. Oh, but I just bought one the other day, or and all that mind goes in. A decision could be following your career, doing what you love, having a coach, getting mentorship, joining it, whatever it is. And if you will stay locked into what you want and what you love, and you will come from a place of faith, of knowing, because that feeling that you feel that's telling you, that's lighting up your soul, that's the truth. The low vibration that kicks in afterwards when the mind goes, oh, but then you start to feel lower vibration, that's now the lie. So if you can just even understand that, then all of a sudden, you know what is meant for you. Question is, are you willing to claim it? Are you willing to allow yourself to have it? One of the biggest things that I find, especially when I would speak to someone that had lower confidence, they would often have to check with the spouse or to go and just process information. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just their decision to back themselves scared them because they weren't used to betting on themselves. In fact, they built up all these false beliefs of how things didn't work out for them, or that they weren't successful, or that they weren't going to make it. So their decision to invest in themselves was already a huge shift. I've had people just by making that decision, oh my God, they just started letting in so much because they jumped on the frequency of believing in themselves. So decision and faith and choosing to stay on that side of faith is going to collapse time with your transformation. And then understanding that everything that's happening is for you, it's for you, it's for you. And you stay on that positive stream, you will reach that destination. You will have what you want. You will manifest what you want, and it will happen in a condensed time. We slow it down by doubting, second guessing. We jump off the frequency. And if you spend your life jumping like this, you will always stay away from what you want. So the only way through here is a decision and to act. Okay. Now, I have had a couple, obviously some questions are coming up. So I'm thinking before we get into Q&A, and then we have a special announcement. I'm really excited about this one. I want to ask you just type it in the chat right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to your transformation? You can just type in the number 10. Okay. And be where you are right now. Don't just write 10 because someone else wrote 10. Just be where you are right now. Oh, I love that. I love that you're at 10s. Wow, that's amazing. It means that what we've been delivering is been penetrating, right? It's getting you to open your heart, right? So Perry's at 7. Okay, Perry, that's okay. Anyone else? Maybe someone else is typing and thinking, well, I'm at a 5, I'm at a 3. I don't know. That's okay. It's okay. We never want to judge ourselves for anything, but understanding, okay, why not a 10? What thoughts come up? And that's why the worksheet I created is great for that. What thoughts come up that I'm not a 10? And maybe you write them down. For someone, it might be, I don't know what I want yet, or I got to build my confidence up. And so a story, you're going to start to see the story that you've been telling. And that story is a huge clue as to what has been holding you back from other areas. And that's something that I always reflect within myself. What's the current story? Okay, that's all that is we are born for transformation. I believe that's what we're meant to be doing over and over and over. The gift we've been given is our mind and our faculties to choose what we want to manifest. So your decision, and this is something to think about, are you in a supportive environment that's enabling your transformation? We're going to speak about our coaching programs that we're offering as well to help you with your transformation. So you have the cocoon and you're supported and you follow through. It's an energetic exchange. It's not about gathering information. That doesn't enable a transformation. It's the embodiment. It's the application. That's where the magic happens. And for some of you, you've already started experiencing that. Imagine having that environment for 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, ongoing. You see, it's a decision. It's a decision. Okay, Matt, how would you love to go through some Q&A?
I think Susan's got a great question there. And I think it's come through when we're talking about the faith and the fear. She said, why does our mind automatically jump to the negative? It's a great question.
It is a great question. What do you think about that one?
Well, I think if your mind automatically jumps to the negative, the word automatic tells you it's subconscious. It's a programming. It doesn't have to be that way, right? Remember, 96 to 98% of all our thoughts, our behaviors, our expectations, they're subconscious, right? They're subconscious. So if your mind, when it comes to making a decision or with anything, if it automatically jumps to the negative, it's just the way it's being programmed to think, right? And so what I would do in that scenario is when you catch yourself thinking the negative, okay, because it's not something that you can just stop like that, just by knowing it, right? It's something that you're aware of. That's great. Now you're aware of it. So when you catch yourself, then it's about replacing it with something that is positive. Replace it with a positive image. So let's say, for example, Susan, when I was sharing an example of me, when I became aware that every time I thought about me in public speaking, I would picture myself freezing or not knowing what to say. So the image was automatic. It was not something I was consciously trying to think. It was just automatically something of a negative nature or something that was causing me to be scared. So I started to override it with a positive image of me speaking clearly and confidently in front of the audience, of people coming up to me at the end of my talk saying how great it was, how much they loved it. It was positive feedback. That made me feel secure. That made me feel confident. That made me feel empowered. That, you see, I started replacing that until that became automatic. Now, the funny thing is, see, this was something I was working on in my self-image for months before I did my first actual talk, right? In person. And when it came time to me booking the actual presentation, I was scared. I felt the fear. Why? Because now I'd been doing the mind work, but now when it came to actually acting on the idea, there was that fear crept up again. But I had a level of awareness. No, this is not going to stop me. I know this is just the figment of my imagination. And I did it anyway. Right. And when it came to doing the actual presentation, I loved it. But the 1 hour was 1 hour only, my first one. But it went so quick. And I remember at the end of it, people were coming up to me saying how much they enjoyed it. Right. So what I was imagining became the reality. Okay. And so the next time I went to book another presentation, I felt that fear again. It hadn't completely gone away. Does that make sense? But then I kept overriding it. Now, like, I can speak very comfortably and confidently. Doesn't matter if there's 5 people or if there's 1,000 people. I remember doing a talk for the consultants worldwide a few years ago, and there were over 1,000 people, and it could have been like I was just speaking normally here in front of you guys. Like, it doesn't move me like it used to. Okay, so we have to override it.
Absolutely. My answer is it's the same. It's the path most traveled, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's automatic. You create a new path, you know, and it's just so amazing. I'll never forget. It's a great example. One of my friends taught me this years ago before I got into it, but I loved it. He said, you know, if you hold an orange and you touch it and you smell it and you have it in your hands, and you put it down, and then you close your eyes and you imagine picking up that orange, holding it, smelling it, right? He said the same pathways of your brain light up as from when you had it in your hand to when you imagined it. And he said that happens for people that have addictive tendencies. He said they're addicted because those pathways are lit up the most. So when it could be addicted to negative thought, it could be addicted to comparing yourself. It could be addicted to complaining. It could be addicted to smoking, whatever it is. An addiction of some sort is really just that path most traveled that in some way gives you that, like a feeling, a high. You get a high of something negative, right? And it's just because it's a pattern. Now you can disrupt the pattern. And this can be from lack thinking to prosperity thinking. This can be from feeling lonely to feeling loved and having friends, right? So whatever it is, you can change it. You've got to rewire that. And that's the beauty about this. You can. And when you do, like Matt just shared an example, like now you speak in front of 1,000 people. That's a change. That's a result of the new image. What image would you love to change? What is it that you would love to have that pathway be the pathway most traveled? So that success comes easy to you, so that you're happy, that you're wealthy, that you're a 6-figure coach or whatever it is. You see, so we can create our reality. We're manifesting kings and queens in here. We have this ability. We have to use it for us if we want to create a life that we love. I have another question that got sent in earlier, which was from someone in here. Said, can you elaborate more on setting intentions? What exactly do we need to do?
In the process of setting intentions.
Question is, can you elaborate more on setting intentions? So when we're setting intentions, I asked everyone at the beginning to set like intention for what they want to manifest, right? What is it they would love? Or before a visualization, maybe setting intention.
Yeah.
I know
Yes.
yeah. So can you elaborate on setting intentions and what do we need to do?
So what I do for when I'm setting an intention, like let's say, for example, even before getting on this call today, I set an intention of how I would love for you to feel in this call, for being on here today, listening to this. It was just something that in my mind, I didn't have to write it down. Now you can write it down if you want to set your intention, but through writing, but it's just really connecting to something that you would love to happen, something that you're intentionally creating in your life, or could be for others. Like you have an intention for anything that you're doing, really. So it's just, okay, well, what would I love? And then, I think that's a great question to start with. What would I love? And then when the image comes to you, that's your intention. And then you emotionally connect to it. So you got anything to add to that, Nat?
Yeah, it's perfect. I would just add to that you want to feel that feeling like it's already done now. So when we set an intention and we're placing an order to the universe, we feel it done. We're not separate from it, or we don't feel like I wish it was going to happen, or I hope it happens, or I'd love it to happen. You already feel that feeling. So an example you just gave is for everyone in the room to feel a certain way. Oh, you feel that feeling like you made them feel that certain way. You may even imagine someone sending messages saying, oh, I feel like this. So you use an image to allow you to jump on a frequency. That's what I do anyway. I use my imagination to allow myself to feel the feeling of that intention already done. And then I let it go. That's the thing with an intention. You don't control it. You place an order. It's just like going to a cafe and placing an order for your latte. Okay. You place that order, you let it go. You don't go and check behind the counter and you're like, oh, I hope he's making it right. Or maybe you do, and that's a sign. We're going to shift that. But you don't go there and you don't like worry, but you go and you have a conversation. You go and look at the beauty around you. You might even jump on your phone, whatever. But you don't control. Once you set intentions, you let go. And that's really important. Okay, next question.
Palaka's got a good question here. How to stop comparing myself with others' success? I think that's a good question, Nat.
That's a good one. And the reason I smile, because that's something I've had to work through. Okay. And I believe there's a lot of people like that. And it really comes from, if you're comparing yourself with others' success, number one, there's the habit of comparing. The habit of comparing can be replaced with the habit of appreciating. Okay, it could be a habit of accepting. So number one, just like gratitude can become a habit with practice, comparing has become a habit. And that could have just been inherited too. It could have been in your environment growing up. Okay, so it's okay. The beautiful thing is you can change it. So I think the opposite of comparing is accepting. So you want to accept yourself. The more you can love and accept yourself, the less you're going to compare. The better you feel about yourself, the more you feel in alignment with your divine self, the less you'll compare, because you'll feel like you have everything you want. You feel like you are amazing. you don't feel like there's something wrong with you or you need something. See, that's that comparison. Now, there's a difference for you to go, oh, I love that. Oh, I love that home. Oh, wow. You're earning 7 figures a month. Okay, I would love that too. Yay. And now you're actually allowing yourself to be in that energy more and more because you love something, you love a result, but you're not feeling down and crappy, which Instagram is or social media is a very easy way to compare yourself because you can see lots of things in a very short period of time about other people that they have or they're doing. So if your self-talk is not positive, loving, empowering, confident, and accepting, that's that trap. And I have a great solution for that I will share with you very soon in my announcement, because that is something that I have had to let go of, break through, grow through. And the more self-love that you have, the more your worth goes up, the more you believe in yourself, the more success you're going to attract.
I think you've hit I think that right there, what you just said, the more you believe in yourself, the less you'll compare yourself to others. See, when you see someone else achieving something, if you have high self-esteem, you'll think that you can do it too. So it's never going to be a negative thing. If you see someone else that's achieving something and you don't believe in yourself, you'll feel it's going to hurt a little bit, or why there'll be a negative self-talk, based on someone else's results that they're creating. So I think the key thing is to work on, like you were saying, the self-love, appreciation, like being happy. You got to be happy with where you're at. You don't have to be satisfied, but you have to remember that, up until this point, it's taken the universe all this time to get you to this point right here. And if you're holding on to an image of yourself being in a much better position, creating much greater success in your life, well, that's going to happen too, unless you replace that image with another idea. Right? But when we have faith, you'll know that it's possible for you too. Okay?
Absolutely. And really, it's like belief, love, acceptance. These are all the divine versions in us. See, the doubts and all those other things that don't feel good, that's not who we are. That's the program. Remember, who are you? You are happy, you are health, you're prosperity, you're abundant, you're grateful, you're loved, you're successful. That's the truth. You've got to align your identity with the truth. And then when you see someone that has something that once upon a time you wanted, or when there's no resistance on that frequency anymore, now you're actually let go of resistance and you can allow it into your experience. It reminds me of someone who had kept having miscarriages and they wanted a baby so much, and their friends were all having babies. And it was quite painful for her to be in that situation. She wanted to be happy for her friends, but she felt that hurt. And she just hadn't believed that she could. And when she shifted that, and she was being coached by us, and she got there, it was amazing. Okay, so this is a magical story. She said, "Oh my God, Nat, I went and saw my other friend have a baby, and I felt so happy." I said, "You shifted something there. There's no more resistance. There's only love." I said, "Now you feel the feeling of you having that because you're happy for her." See, what we do for others, we do for ourselves. The energy we think and feel about others, we're bringing to ourselves, and vice versa. What we do for ourselves, we actually do for others. That's why I believe investing in yourself and developing yourself is the best thing you can do for yourself and others. And then she fell pregnant and she had a baby, and now she's having a second baby any day. Isn't it amazing? So think about your success or whatever it is you've been comparing yourself to. That's a sign that there's some work to do there in that area, whatever it is. Okay, well, shall we go into, for those of you who would love to receive this coaching, this level of coaching, and receive calls every week with us or with Matt or myself, there's different programs with different things in there. We're going to cover a few. And if you would love to find out more, I would highly suggest that you either type it in the chat here. We're not going to see if you're listening to the recording. Obviously, you won't be able to do that. You can also send us an email, the email at admin@mattandnatmindset.com. You've all received an email from us to be on this call. So you can just reply and literally just put in the subject, find out more, and we'll contact you. Okay. Or you can go to our website and there's find out more at the top, contact us, just fill in the form. So Matt, would you love to share what you're doing and then what we're doing, and then I'll share what I'm doing?
Sure. So basically one of the options that we have in terms of our coaching that we offer is the Thinking Results program, which is it's basically where you get to learn from both Bob. Okay, so you get a program with Bob where he'll be teaching you through 12 lessons, the essentials to create success, right? And I honestly believe they're essentials. And I have seen people create success in all different areas of life, like whether it was releasing weight, so becoming healthier, finding the perfect partner, the soulmate, in fact, within 3 months, multiplying their business, income. You can use this for anything. It's not just for one thing, okay? It's really for driven individuals though, right? Who are ready to make it happen. And we're balancing masculine and feminine energy. Okay, so there is doing, but we're also doing it in the spirit of it. Okay, so the way I teach it is done in a certain way where it balances masculine and feminine energy. There's live coaching with me each week. And that's pretty much the sum of it. Another option will be where you're working more closely with Nat and myself, both of us, in our inner circle. Okay. And that's a live coaching call every week, but we're focusing more on the spiritual side of success. So the metaphysical side of success. Okay. You're studying more the things that we study together. And then Nat?
Yes, I have a special announcement. I do. I am launching my own coaching program called Love and Prosper. And it is a feminine energy for individuals who really want to get to the place of loving themselves, accepting themselves, raising their self-worth, their confidence, their belief, okay? And getting to this place where they can be themselves and create prosperity, financial success and prosperity. So I believe for me, that was one of the biggest shifts, and it's something that I've had to keep working through my whole life. I believe it's my purpose to help people really love themselves and create prosperity that way. That's how my income multiplied, was when I started to change my identity about myself and align it with who I really am. So if you would love that, that is going to be a weekly live as well for a certain period of time. And it is done in a feminine energy. So a lot of allowing, a lot of flow, a lot of ease, and you will be taking actions that are more aligned with who you are. So this is about you and your relationship with you and creating the success you want. So I'm really excited about that, and manifesting with love, joy, and flow. So that's the 3 options at the moment that you have. If any of those resonate with you, then just send us a message, send us an email. There's many ways you can contact us, and we will see which one is the perfect fit. If you don't know, that's okay too, right? It's okay. Trust your intuition. Once again, this isn't about pigeonholing yourself. Intuition is going to be one of your superpowers if you develop it, but you already have it now. You just got to listen to it. You feel it. You go, oh, what feels right? What feels good? And I make decisions based on intuition. They may make 0 sense to people, but when you stop caring what others think of you, you free yourself to be yourself. And when you're able to trust yourself enough to make decisions based on intuition, you'll collapse time because you're not waiting for evidence. You're not living from the outside in, you're living from the inside out. And that's the habit of successful people. They follow their intuition, they follow their feelings, and they decide from there. And then the outside world molds itself to what they've been holding on to, the image, because they've been being this version before it happened. Okay. So Transform has been absolutely magical. I would just want to, once again, for those of you who have completed, you're obviously listening to this or watching this, it means that you've energetically aligned, right, with Transform. And you've decided, I've seen lots of 10s, your next transformation awaits you. You are meant for greatness. You are meant to have what it is that you love. You are meant to feel full and alive and whole and complete. You are meant to have these dreams that keep coming to you, these desires. They're coming to you for a reason, because on the other side is a more empowered version of you, more abundant version of you, a more inspiring version of you. And I would invite you to entertain the idea that you are going to be your success story. You are going to be the success story. So you decide who you're going to be, your identity, and you become him, you become her. And that's how you're going to help others. Be your best success story and make a commitment that that's what you're going to do, not for anyone else, but for you, because you deserve it. Okay. It's been incredible hosting you. I have loved every bit of it. I really have. And what you do next with this is what matters most. Turning it over to you, Matt.
Yeah, I think you've just hit the nail on the head, Nat. I think what you do with it is the most important part. Like information is just information until it's applied, right? That's when it becomes powerful. When you apply it in your life, you will start to see what it can do for you. And that's why I said in the first day, I said, if it's the first time hearing these kinds of ideas, you don't have to accept it. Just don't reject it. Try it. Like, just apply it into your life and you'll experience it for yourself. You'll see how it works. And when you experience it, this is when you're really learning. See, learning is not sitting here listening to this. That's not learning. Okay, learning is when you take a piece of information, you internalize it, you act on the information. So you act on the idea, and it's the reaction you get from the outside world. It's the response you get that says, oh, now I can see what Matt meant, or now I can see what Nat meant when she said this, right? That is when you're really, that registers in your mind like, and then you take that new awareness, you process more information, and you go through the same process. This is how you're going to keep learning and evolving. This is how your life's going to keep changing. It's through understanding and application.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, if you're ready, we're here. For those of you already being coached by us, let's keep going. Let's keep transforming. Your next level awaits you. And we love you guys. Thanks for joining. And until next time.